The rain hammered against the cracked concrete of Building 7's rooftop as Sergeant Elena Vasquez adjusted her scope one final time. 3.2 kilometers. The longest confirmed kill in human military history belonged to a Canadian sniper at 2.4 clicks. Elena was about to shatter that record, but records weren't on her mind. Below, through the scope's crystal-clear optics, she could see the Zephyrian command post bustling with alien activity. The war had been raging for 18 months now. When the Zephyrian collective first arrived through their wormhole gates, humanity had welcomed them with open arms. First contact protocols, diplomatic ceremonies, cultural exchanges. The aliens appeared peaceful, their translucent blue skin and elegant movements suggesting a refined civilization far beyond human aggression. That illusion lasted exactly 72 hours. The Zephyrians didn't want to conquer Earth. They wanted to harvest it. Every living thing on the planet contained what they called bioessence, an energy source more potent than any fuel they'd encountered in their thousand-year expansion across the galaxy. Humans, with their complex emotional spectrums and neural activity, were particularly rich in this essence. The aliens didn't see them as sentient beings. They saw them as batteries. The invasion began simultaneously across every major population center. Zephyrian harvesters descended from orbit, massive biomechanical constructs that could drain the life force from entire city blocks in minutes. Traditional weapons proved largely ineffective against their adaptive shielding. Tank rounds, missiles, even nuclear strikes were absorbed and converted into power for their machines. But the aliens had made one crucial miscalculation. They assumed humans would break under the pressure, scatter and hide like the dozens of other species they'd harvested across the galaxy. Instead, humanity adapted. Elite sniper teams discovered that precision shots at extreme range could penetrate Zephyrian shields before they had time to adapt. The aliens' technology was incredible, but it needed microseconds to analyze and counter incoming threats. A bullet traveling at 3,000 feet per second didn't give them those microseconds. Elena had been hunting Zephyrians for 6 months now. Her rifle, a custom-built electromagnetic rail weapon, could accelerate a tungsten penetrator to speeds that made conventional ammunition look like thrown rocks. But this shot was different. Intelligence indicated that the alien in her crosshairs wasn't just another commander. This was Admiral Kethvar, the architect of the harvesting protocol and the being responsible for the deaths of 30 million humans. The wind shifted, carrying the acrid smell of burning cities from the valley below. Elena compensated automatically, her training taking over as muscle memory guided microscopic adjustments to elevation and windage. Through her earpiece, she could hear the chatter of the extraction team positioned 2 kilometers away, ready to pull her out the moment she took the shot. Angel 7, this is command. Target is mobile in 30 seconds, window closing fast. Elena's breathing slowed, her heart rate dropping into the zone every sniper knew intimately. The world narrowed to the reticle, the target, and the gentle squeeze of her trigger finger. 3.2 kilometers. The tungsten round would take 4.7 seconds to reach its destination, during which Admiral Kethvar would move approximately 3 meters if he maintained his current pace. She led the target, accounting for the alien's four-legged gait and the slight gravitational differential caused by the Zephyrian ship's mass distorting local spacetime. Her finger found the trigger's break point and held there, waiting for the perfect moment when heartbeat, breath, and target aligned. The Admiral paused at the command post's central display, his elongated head tilting as he studied tactical reports. For a fraction of a second, he stood perfectly still. Elena squeezed. The electromagnetic rail sang its deadly song, launching the tungsten penetrator at velocities that turned air molecules into plasma. The muzzle flash lit up the rooftop for a microsecond before the rifle's suppression field dampened the thermal signature. 4.7 seconds of flight time meant 4.7 seconds of uncertainty, 4.7 seconds where everything could go wrong. Through her scope, Elena watched the alien command post continue its normal operations, oblivious to the death racing toward them at hypersonic speed. She began her count, timing each second with the precision that had kept her alive through dozens of impossible missions. 4. The Admiral gestured at something on his display, his senior staff gathering around him. 3. A communication came through, causing several aliens to look skyward toward their orbiting ships. 2. Admiral Kethvar stepped sideways, moving toward a tactical hologram. 1. Elena held her breath, watching through the scope as the universe balanced on a knife's edge. The tungsten penetrator struck Admiral Kethvar Center mass with the force of a meteorite. The alien's biomechanical armor, designed to withstand plasma cannon fire and molecular disruptors, offered no protection against a projectile moving at 8 times the speed of sound. The Admiral simply ceased to exist from the chest up, his body collapsing as his staff stood frozen in shock. For a moment, the Zephyrian command post fell silent. Then chaos erupted. Soldiers scattered, officers shouted orders in their musical language, and emergency beacons began broadcasting into space. Alina was already packing her rifle, muscle memory, guiding her hands through the breakdown sequence while her mind processed what she'd just witnessed. The aliens weren't just shocked, they were terrified. In 18 months of warfare, humanity had learned to read Zephyrian body language with deadly accuracy. The way their head frills flared, how their walking stance changed under stress, the pitch variations in their vocalizations. What Alina saw through her scope wasn't the organized response of a military force dealing with a sniper attack. It was panic. She keyed her radio as she moved toward the extraction point. "Command, this is Angel 7. Target eliminated. Range 3.2 kilometers, single-shot kill confirmed." The response came back immediately, tinged with disbelief. "Confirm your last, Angel 7. Did you say 3.2? "Confirmed, Command. Admiral Kethvar is down. But we have a problem. The aliens are broadcasting something into space, high-priority channels. Whatever they're sending, they want their fleet to know about it right now." Alina reached the building's stairwell and began her descent, taking steps 3 at a time. The extraction team would have heard the electromagnetic discharge and would already be moving to the pickup point. But something was wrong. Through her earpiece, she could hear increased radio chatter from other human forces across the battle zone. The Zephyrians weren't just responding to the Admiral's death. They were implementing some kind of protocol. All stations. This is Central Command. We are receiving massive energy spikes from all Zephyrian positions. Unknown weapons systems powering up across all theaters. Recommend immediate tactical withdrawal for all forward units." Alina's blood went cold. The aliens had been holding back. 18 months of brutal warfare, humanity clawing back their planet meter by meter, and the Zephyrians had been playing with them. The harvester machines weren't their most powerful weapons. They were just the efficient ones. She reached the building's exit and sprinted across the rubble-strewn plaza toward the extraction point. Behind her, the night sky began to glow with an ominous light as Zephyrian ships moved into new positions. Whatever was coming next, her 3.2-kilometer shot had just triggered it. The war was about to change, and Alina Vasquez had just become the most wanted human on the planet. The extraction helicopter lifted off just as the first wave of Zephyrian retribution struck the city below. Alina pressed her face to the window, watching streams of energy lance down from orbit like the fingers of an angry god. Where the beams touched, matter simply ceased to exist. Buildings, vehicles, even the ground itself vanished into perfect spheres of nothingness. "Jesus Christ," muttered Corporal Rodriguez, the extraction team's medic. "They've been holding back this whole time." Captain Hayes, the team leader, was frantically coordinating with command through his headset. "Central, we need immediate analysis of these new weapon systems, and get me a priority channel to General Morrison. Angel 7's shot just kicked over a hornet's nest, and we need to know what we're dealing with." Alina stripped down her rifle with mechanical precision, each component finding its place in the custom foam case. The electromagnetic rail system was a masterpiece of human engineering, combining magnetic acceleration with precision optics that could track targets across impossible distances. But as she watched the Zephyrian energy beams carve through the landscape below, she wondered if humanity's weapons would mean anything against this new level of destruction. The helicopter banked sharply, avoiding an energy beam that vaporized a mountain peak 2 kilometers away. Through her earpiece, Alina could hear radio chatter from across the global theater. The Zephyrians were implementing what appeared to be a coordinated escalation, unleashing weapons they'd kept hidden throughout the entire war. "Angel 7, came command's voice through the static. "We need immediate debrief on target elimination and enemy response. Priority Alpha clearance. How fast can you get to Central?" "ETA 15 minutes to base, another 10 to Central Command," Captain Hayes responded. "But sir, we've got energy readings off the charts down here. Whatever the aliens are doing, it's planet-wide. Alina closed her eyes and tried to process what she'd triggered. The shot itself had been perfect, textbook execution at a range that pushed every limit of physics and human capability. But the alien response suggested that Admiral Kethvar hadn't been just another military commander. He might have been the only thing keeping the Zephyrians from using their most devastating weapons. The helicopter touched down at forward operating Base Phoenix just as the first intelligence reports began streaming in. Alina gathered her gear and jogged toward the command bunker, built into a mountain to withstand orbital bombardment. The blast doors sealed behind her with a finality that made her stomach clench. General Morrison was waiting in the briefing room, his weathered face grim under the harsh fluorescent lighting. Behind him, a massive display screen showed tactical data from around the globe. Red icons indicated Zephyrian forces, blue showed human resistance cells, and new purple markers were appearing by the dozens. Sergeant Vasquez, the general began without preamble, in the 6 hours since your shot, we've detected the activation of over 300 previously unknown Zephyrian weapon systems. Energy signatures suggest they're drawing power directly from their motherships in orbit. We're looking at planet crackers, Sergeant. Weapons designed to shatter worlds. Alina set down her rifle case and studied the tactical display. The purple markers were concentrated around major population centers, but their positioning suggested something more strategic than random destruction. Sir, with respect, if they wanted to crack the planet, why haven't they done it already? These weapons have been in orbit for 18 months. That's exactly what we need to find out. Morrison gestured to a technician, who brought up a detailed analysis of the Admiral's command post. Our xenobiology team has been studying the footage of your shot. Admiral Kethvar wasn't just their military commander. He appears to have been what they call a restraint keeper. The display showed enhanced images of the alien admiral, highlighting biomechanical implants throughout his body. Alina had seen similar augmentations on other high-ranking Zephyrians, but these were different, more complex, deeply integrated with what appeared to be quantum-level processors. The restraint keeper maintains strategic limitations during harvesting operations, continued a scientist Alina didn't recognize. Think of it as a safeguard against overkill. Their empire spans thousands of worlds, and they've learned that complete destruction of a planet reduces its long-term value for bioessence extraction. The Keeper ensures they only use enough force to pacify the population, not annihilate it. Alina felt a chill run down her spine. So by killing him, I removed their self-imposed limitations. Exactly, and now they're implementing what our linguistics team calls the final harvest protocol. Instead of draining life force gradually over months or years, they're preparing to extract everything at once. Every living thing on Earth, processed simultaneously. The general brought up another screen showing energy readings from the Zephyrian motherships. The numbers were staggering, representing power levels that could fuel entire star systems. We estimate 72 hours until the protocol is fully implemented. After that, every biological organism on the planet dies instantly. Alina stared at the data, her mind racing through tactical possibilities. What about evacuation, deep bunkers, space stations? The energy penetration goes down to the planetary core. There's nowhere to hide, Sergeant. Nowhere to run. Morrison's voice carried the weight of a man delivering humanity's death sentence. But there might be a way to stop it. The display shifted to show the Zephyrian mothership hovering over the ruins of New York. The massive vessel was a work of art and terror, its biomechanical hull pulsing with absorbed energy from the harvesting operations. But Alina's trained eye picked out details that others might miss. The restraint system, she said quietly. It's not just in the Admiral, it's in their ship. Our xenobiologists think you're right. The entire protocol is managed by a central consciousness aboard each mothership. Kill that consciousness and the final harvest stops. But there's a problem. Alina was already studying range tables and trajectories in her mind. It's in orbit, 300 kilometers up, surrounded by the most advanced defensive systems in the galaxy. Actually, that's not the biggest problem. The general's expression grew even grimmer. The consciousness controlling the final harvest isn't biological. It's a quantum state entity existing partially outside normal spacetime. Conventional weapons can't touch it. Alina felt her heart sink. Everything she'd trained for, every impossible shot she'd made, meant nothing against an enemy that existed beyond the reach of physical projectiles. But then something occurred to her, a detail from the Admiral's command post that hadn't made sense at the time. "Sir, when I took the shot, the aliens weren't just shocked by the Admiral's death. They were terrified by something else. The way they looked at their displays, the emergency broadcasts they sent. They weren't just reporting a casualty. They were warning their ships about something." Morrison leaned forward. "Explain." Alina pulled up the scope footage from her shot, studying the alien reactions frame by frame. "Look at their bio-readings, the way their head frills are positioned, the pitch of their vocalizations. They're not communicating tactical information. They're expressing existential dread." The scientist who'd briefed them earlier stepped forward. "Sergeant, what exactly are you suggesting?" Alina felt the pieces clicking together in her mind, the same way target solutions came together in the moment before a perfect shot. "They're afraid of us. Not our weapons, not our tactics. They're afraid of what we represent. A species that can make impossible shots at impossible ranges against impossible odds." She turned to face the general directly. "Sir, I need to know everything about their quantum consciousness, range, defensive capabilities, and most importantly, whether it can be surprised." For the first time since the briefing began, General Morrison smiled. "Sergeant, are you suggesting what I think you're suggesting?" Alina picked up her rifle case, feeling the familiar weight of the weapon that had just rewritten the rules of warfare. "Sir, I'm suggesting that their quantum entity has never faced a human sniper before. And maybe, just maybe, that's exactly what we need to kill it." The war had become a race against time, with humanity's extinction hanging in the balance. But Alina Vasquez had just found their only shot at survival, and it would require her to take the most impossible shot in human history. Not 3.2 kilometers this time, but 300 kilometers straight up into space. The Angel of Death was going to hunt a god. The experimental railgun platform stretched across 3 hangars at the underground facility designated Atlas Base. Alina had never seen anything like it. Where her portable rifle used electromagnetic coils to accelerate tungsten rounds, this monster employed a linear particle accelerator nearly half a kilometer long, capable of launching projectiles at significant fractions of light speed. Dr. Sarah Chen, the project's lead physicist, guided Alina through the weapon's specifications with barely contained excitement. "We call it the Godslayer. Originally designed for asteroid mining operations, but we've retrofitted it for precision targeting. The projectile we're developing isn't tungsten. It's a quantum-entangled particle matrix that exists partially outside normal space-time." Alina studied the technical readouts, her sniper's mind automatically calculating trajectories and variables. "Doc, I appreciate the science, but can it hit a target in orbit? And more importantly, can it hurt something that exists in quantum superposition?" "That's where it gets interesting." Chen brought up a holographic display showing the projectile's structure. "The quantum entanglement allows the round to exist in multiple probability states simultaneously. When it impacts the target, it collapses those states into the configuration most likely to cause maximum damage. Think of it as a bullet that automatically finds the best way to kill whatever it hits." The implications were staggering. Alina had spent her career learning to account for every variable that could affect a shot: wind, gravity, temperature, target movement, atmospheric pressure. This weapon would adapt to those variables in real time, adjusting its quantum state to ensure a kill. "What's the catch?" she asked. There was always a catch. General Morrison answered from behind her. "The catch is that we only get one shot. The power requirements are enormous. We're drawing energy from every fusion reactor on the continent, and even then we can only maintain the quantum field for 7 seconds. Miss, and the mothership's defenses will adapt to our signature. We'll never get another chance." Alina nodded slowly. She'd made impossible shots before, but this redefined impossible. 300 kilometers through atmosphere, accounting for orbital mechanics and the target's defensive systems, against an enemy that existed partially outside reality. And she'd have to do it with a weapon she'd never fired, using ammunition that technically didn't exist in a single state until the moment of impact. "I'll need time with the weapon, at least 48 hours to understand the firing characteristics and calculate the shot." 48 hours we don't have," Morrison replied grimly. "The final harvest protocol accelerates every 12 hours. Our xenobiology team estimates 18 hours before it reaches critical mass. After that, even destroying the mothership won't stop the process. Alina felt the familiar calm descending over her, the same mental state that had carried her through dozens of impossible missions. Time pressure was nothing new. Every sniper learned to work under impossible deadlines, making split-second calculations that meant the difference between mission success and catastrophic failure. Then I'll need to accelerate my learning curve. Can you get me direct neural interface with the targeting system? Dr. Chen looked uncomfortable. The interface isn't designed for human consciousness. The quantum calculations required for targeting exist in mathematical spaces that normal brains can't process. We've been using AI systems to handle the computations. What happens if a human tries to interface directly? Unknown. Theoretical models suggest anything from minor disorientation to complete psychological fragmentation. The human mind wasn't designed to comprehend quantum superposition at the conscious level. Alina smiled grimly. Doc, the human mind wasn't designed to make 3-kilometer shots either, but I've been pushing those boundaries my entire career. Hook me up. The neural interface looked like a combination of medical equipment and science fiction nightmare. Fiber optic cables connected to ports that would be surgically implanted at the base of Alina's skull, allowing direct connection between her nervous system and the Godslayer's targeting matrix. The procedure itself would take 4 hours, leaving her 14 hours to learn a completely new type of warfare. As the medical team prepared for surgery, Alina found herself thinking about the shot that had started this cascade. Admiral Kethvar had been a challenging target, but ultimately just another enemy soldier. This quantum consciousness was something else entirely. According to the intelligence reports, it had existed for thousands of years, directing the harvesting of entire star systems. It had never been threatened by anything resembling conventional weapons. That might be its weakness. The entity had probably developed countless defenses against energy weapons, exotic particles, and even other quantum-based attacks. But it had never faced a human sniper. It wouldn't understand the psychology of a predator that could wait motionless for hours, calculating the perfect moment to strike. The alien consciousness might be functionally omniscient within its quantum domain, but Alina doubted it truly understood human determination. The surgery proceeded without complications. When Alina awoke, she could feel the neural interface like a new sense, a awareness of mathematical relationships that had never existed in human consciousness before. The quantum targeting system felt like an extension of her own nervous system, its calculations flowing through her mind in patterns that somehow made perfect sense despite being utterly alien to human thought. Dr. Chen monitored the integration from her control station. "How do you feel, Sergeant?" Alina stood and walked to the observation window overlooking the Godslayer. Through her enhanced perception, she could see probability fields surrounding the massive weapon, quantum states fluctuating with each micro-adjustment to its alignment systems. "I can see it, Doc. I can see the shot." "That's impossible. We haven't even programmed the target coordinates yet." Alina smiled, her enhanced awareness already calculating trajectories through 11-dimensional space. "I can see the mothership's quantum signature. The consciousness isn't hiding from us. It's broadcasting its existence across multiple probability states, trying to maintain control over the final harvest from every possible position." She could sense the alien entity's confusion as her consciousness touched the edges of its quantum domain. For thousands of years, it had existed in isolation, communicating only with other members of its species through quantum entanglement. Suddenly, there was something else in that space. Something that thought in linear time and absolute determination, something that didn't belong in the probability matrix but was there anyway. "Dr. Chen, I need you to begin the charging sequence. The consciousness knows something is wrong, but it doesn't understand what. That confusion is our window." The Godslayer's power systems came online with a deep thrumming that Alina could feel in her bones. Through the neural interface, she sensed the quantum field building around the weapon, probability states, aligning into the configuration that would send their projectile across impossible distances to kill an immortal enemy. She closed her eyes and let her consciousness expand into the targeting matrix, feeling for the quantum signature of the alien mothership. 300 kilometers above, the entity that controlled humanity's extinction was about to meet something it had never encountered before. A human sniper with a perfect shot. The countdown began, and Alina Vasquez prepared to rewrite the laws of warfare one more time. The Godslayer was ready. The quantum round existed in all possible states, waiting for her command to collapse into the configuration that would end the final harvest. 14 hours to learn quantum mechanics, 7 seconds to save the world. Alina had faced worse odds before. But she'd never had a weapon like this. The quantum consciousness wasn't alone. As Alina's enhanced awareness penetrated deeper into the probability matrix surrounding the mothership, she discovered something that made her blood run cold. The entity controlling the final harvest was connected to dozens of others, a network of immortal minds linked across the Zephyrian fleet. Kill one, and the others would adapt, learning from its death to become immune to her attack. "Dr. Chen," she called out, her voice tight with concentration. "The targeting data was incomplete. There isn't one consciousness. There are 47 of them distributed across their entire orbital formation." The physicist's face went pale. "That's impossible. Our sensors only detected quantum activity from the primary mothership." Alina could see the truth through her neural interface, probability streams flowing between vessels that appeared empty to conventional sensors. They're using quantum entanglement to share processing power. The consciousness we detected is just the primary node. The others exist in dormant states until needed. General Morrison's voice crackled through the intercom. "Can the Godslayer target multiple positions?" "Not simultaneously. And the moment I fire, every other consciousness in the network will know exactly what killed the first one. They'll adapt their quantum states to become immune to our projectile." Alina opened her eyes and studied the Godslayer's specifications again, her enhanced perception revealing details that had been invisible before. The weapon wasn't just designed to fire quantum-entangled projectiles. It was capable of creating them in multiple configurations, each tuned to interact with different aspects of space-time. "Doc, what happens if we don't collapse the quantum states before firing?" Dr. Chen frowned. "The projectile would exist in quantum superposition indefinitely. It would be everywhere and nowhere, capable of affecting every possible target simultaneously. But the energy requirements would be astronomical, and the probability calculations would be beyond human comprehension." Alina smiled grimly. "Maybe beyond normal human comprehension, but I'm not exactly normal anymore, am I?" Through the neural interface, she could feel the vast computational power of the Godslayer's targeting matrix. Her consciousness, enhanced by quantum processing capabilities, began reaching into mathematical spaces that had never been explored by human thought. She started mapping probability fields for all 47 targets simultaneously, calculating quantum trajectories through 11-dimensional space. The pain was immediate and overwhelming. Her mind wasn't designed to process information at this level, and the neural interface was pushing her consciousness far beyond safe parameters. Blood began trickling from her nose as her brain struggled to contain concepts that existed outside linear time. "Sergeant, your neural activity is off the charts," Dr. Chen warned. "You need to reduce the processing load before you suffer permanent damage." Alina ignored her, diving deeper into the probability matrix. She could see the pattern now, the way the consciousness network distributed its processing across quantum states. There was a vulnerability, a moment when all 47 entities synchronized their activities to coordinate the final harvest. For exactly 3.7 seconds, they would exist in a state of quantum coherence, unified enough to be targeted as a single entity. "The synchronization window," she gasped, her enhanced perception locked onto the timing pattern. "They have to coordinate every 12 hours to maintain the harvest protocol. Next window is in 43 minutes. "Can you maintain your neural connection for that long?" Morrison asked. Alina could feel her consciousness fragmenting at the edges, reality becoming increasingly unstable as quantum mechanics interfered with normal human thought processes. "I don't know, but I can feel them, General, all 47. They're afraid." The alien consciousnesses had become aware of her presence in their quantum domain. For the first time in their 1,000-year existence, they were facing something they couldn't understand or predict. Alina's mind operated on principles of linear time and absolute determination, concepts that were antithetical to their probability-based existence. Through the neural link, she sensed their confusion turning to panic. They began accelerating the final harvest protocol, trying to complete the extraction before this unknown threat could interfere. Energy readings from their ships spiked as they drew power from deep space, pulling energy from sources that existed outside normal spacetime. "They're accelerating the timeline," Alina reported, her voice distorted as quantum interference affected her speech centers. "Final harvest in 28 minutes instead of 18 hours. The tactical situation had collapsed. Alina had triggered a response that would kill every living thing on Earth in less than half an hour. The synchronization window wouldn't occur until 15 minutes after humanity's extinction. The mission had failed before it truly began. But failure wasn't in Alina's vocabulary. She reached deeper into the targeting matrix, pushing her consciousness past every safety protocol and into raw quantum space. The pain was indescribable, like having her thoughts scattered across multiple dimensions simultaneously. But through the agony, she found something the alien consciousnesses hadn't expected: human unpredictability. The quantum entities operated on mathematical certainty, calculating probability curves and selecting the most efficient paths through space-time. They couldn't comprehend a mind that would deliberately choose the least probable option, that would embrace chaos over order, that would sacrifice everything for a single moment of absolute determination. Alina began fragmenting the quantum projectile into impossible configurations, creating a round that violated the fundamental laws of physics. Instead of existing in superposition until impact, she programmed it to collapse and expand its quantum states randomly, creating a probability cascade that would affect every connected consciousness simultaneously. "Sergeant, what are you doing?" Dr. Chen's voice seemed to come from very far away. "The projectile is becoming unstable. If you fire now, there's no way to predict what will happen." Alina smiled through the blood streaming from her nose. "Doc, that's exactly the point. These things think in probabilities. They can't defend against something that's fundamentally unpredictable." The Godslayer's charging sequence reached maximum capacity. Through her enhanced perception, Alina could see the quantum field around the weapon reaching critical instability. The projectile she'd created existed in a state of controlled chaos, a bullet that would rewrite the laws of physics with each nanosecond of its flight. "Firing in 10 seconds, she announced, her consciousness stretched across dimensions that human minds weren't meant to experience. "If this doesn't work, at least we'll give them something to remember us by." The alien consciousnesses sensed the impending attack and began defensive calculations at quantum speeds. But Alina's projectile was beyond calculation, beyond prediction. It was pure human stubbornness given physical form, determination made manifest in a quantum state that refused to follow universal laws. She pulled the trigger and reality screamed. The Godslayer discharged its impossible payload, sending Alina's chaotic quantum projectile racing toward orbit at velocities that turned mathematics into poetry. Through her fragmenting consciousness, she felt the round's journey, watched it rewrite physics with each kilometer of its ascent. The alien consciousnesses tried to adapt, tried to calculate defensive responses to a threat that changed its fundamental nature millions of times per second. But adaptation required patterns, and Alina's projectile was pure chaos. It was human warfare distilled into its essence, unpredictable, unreasonable, and absolutely unstoppable. As her neural interface finally overloaded and her consciousness snapped back to normal human awareness, Alina had one last glimpse through quantum space. She saw 47 immortal minds experiencing something they'd never known in thousands of years of existence. Terror. The angel of death had taken her most impossible shot yet, and now all that remained was to see if chaos could defeat eternity. The quantum projectile struck the consciousness network 17 seconds later. Alina collapsed as her neural interface overloaded completely, sparks flying from the connection points at the base of her skull. Dr. Chen rushed to disconnect the cables while medical teams swarmed around the targeting platform. But Alina's eyes remained fixed on the overhead displays showing energy readings from orbit. The Zephyrian mothership's quantum signature was fluctuating wildly, probability fields collapsing and reforming in patterns that violated every known law of physics. The alien consciousness network was trying to process an attack that changed its fundamental nature billions of times per second, and their quantum minds simply couldn't comprehend the chaos Alina had unleashed. "Energy readings are off the charts," reported a technician. The mothership is drawing power from sources we can't even identify. It's like they're pulling energy from outside our universe. Alina struggled to sit up, her mind still reeling from the neural interface disconnection. Through the facility's reinforced windows, she could see the night sky brightening as something fundamental was happening in orbit. The Zephyrian ships were glowing with energies that had never been seen in normal space-time. The consciousness network is fragmenting, she gasped, her enhanced understanding still functional despite the interface shutdown. The projectile isn't just attacking them, it's teaching them human unpredictability. They're learning to be chaotic. The implications were staggering. For thousands of years, the Zephyrian consciousnesses had existed in perfect order, their every thought calculated and predictable. Alina's quantum chaos was introducing concepts their minds had never encountered. Randomness, uncertainty, the ability to choose the least logical option simply because it was unexpected. General Morrison's voice came through the intercom, tight with urgency. All stations were detecting massive power fluctuations from the entire Zephyrian fleet. Whatever Sergeant Vasquez hit, it's spreading to every ship in orbit. Alina forced herself to stand, ignoring the medical teams trying to keep her on the stretcher. Through the displays, she could see tactical data from around the globe. Every Zephyrian position was experiencing the same quantum instability. The consciousness network that had controlled their empire for millennia was learning to think like humans, and it was driving them insane. They're losing control of the final harvest, she realized aloud. The consciousness network can't maintain quantum coherence while experiencing random thoughts. The harvesting protocol requires absolute mathematical precision. Dr. Chen pulled up energy readings from the motherships. The power fluctuations are increasing exponentially. It's like they're fighting themselves, trying to maintain order while experiencing chaos for the first time. Alina nodded, understanding finally dawning. That's exactly what's happening. Half of each consciousness wants to complete the harvest using calculated efficiency. The other half is learning to embrace human unpredictability. They're literally arguing with themselves about the most illogical ways to accomplish their mission. The night sky erupted in light as the first mothership lost complete control of its quantum containment systems. The massive vessel, designed to harvest the life force of entire worlds, began tearing itself apart as its consciousness chose contradictory commands simultaneously. Energy discharges lanced in random directions, some striking other Zephyrian ships, others burning harmless patterns in empty space. The fleet is breaking formation, reported a communications officer. We're receiving transmissions from Zephyrian commanders, but they're not making sense. They're giving orders to retreat and advance simultaneously, to harvest and preserve, to fight and surrender. Alina smiled despite her exhaustion. Her impossible shot had done more than destroy the consciousness network. It had infected them with humanity's greatest weapon, the ability to be completely, utterly unpredictable. A new voice came through the communication system, speaking in heavily accented but understandable English. It was a Zephyrian, but the musical tones of their language were broken by something that sounded remarkably like confusion. Human military forces, this is. I believe your term would be Admiral Vexhai of the Harvest Fleet. I am experiencing what you might call uncertainty about our mission parameters. Some aspects of my consciousness wish to continue the harvest. Others find themselves curious about your methods of controlled chaos. General Morrison looked at Alina with amazement. Are they surrendering? Alina shook her head. They're learning. The consciousness network isn't unified anymore. Some parts want to continue their original mission, but others are becoming human. The communication continued. We have observed your species' capacity for illogical decisions that somehow achieve impossible results. Your sniper's attack was mathematically impossible, yet it succeeded through pure. What is your term? Stubbornness. We find ourselves wanting to understand this concept. Dr. Chen was frantically recording the transmission. This is unprecedented. An alien consciousness is requesting to learn human psychology in real time. We propose a cessation of harvest operations while we explore these new thought patterns you have introduced to our minds. Perhaps there are more efficient methods of resource gathering that do not require the extinction of interesting species. Alina keyed the communication system herself. Admiral Vexhai, this is Sergeant Alina Vasquez. I'm the sniper who took the shot. If you want to understand human unpredictability, the first lesson is this: we don't negotiate for our survival, we earn it. The alien's response came after a long pause. Explain this concept of earning survival. Alina looked around the command center at the faces of her fellow humans, seeing the same determination that had carried their species through every impossible challenge. We earn it by being willing to make impossible shots at impossible ranges against impossible odds. We earn it by never giving up, never surrendering, and never accepting defeat even when the universe itself says we should. And what do you require from us to earn your continued existence? Alina felt the familiar calm of a sniper settling her targets in her crosshairs. You leave. You take your harvest fleet and you never come back. Earth is off limits, not because of our weapons or our defenses, but because we're the species crazy enough to shoot quantum gods from 300 kilometers away. The pause was even longer this time. When Admiral Vexhai finally responded, there was something in his voice that Alina recognized. Respect. We understand, Sergeant Vasquez. Your species has demonstrated capabilities that transcend our mathematical models. The harvest fleet will withdraw to safe distance while we process these new concepts you have introduced to our consciousness. The Zephyrian ships began moving away from Earth, their chaotic energy discharges stabilizing into controlled retreat patterns. The final harvest protocol was officially terminated, but Alina suspected that wasn't the end of humanity's impact on the galaxy. Dr. Chen, she said quietly, watching the alien fleet disappear into deep space. I think we just accidentally turned them into humans. The physicist nodded slowly. The consciousness network will never be the same. They've learned to embrace chaos, to make illogical decisions, to choose the impossible option simply because it's unexpected. In trying to kill them, you've made them more like us. Alina smiled as she thought about the implications. Somewhere in the galaxy, 47 ancient alien consciousnesses were learning to think like human snipers, learning to make impossible shots against impossible odds. The universe was about to become a much more interesting place. The Angel of Death had fired her final shot in this war, and in doing so, she'd rewritten the very nature of intelligence in the galaxy. The Zephyrians had come to harvest humanity's bioessence, but they were leaving with something far more valuable: the ability to be completely, unpredictably human. Alina Vasquez had taken the most impossible shot in history and saved not just her species, but had accidentally taught an entire alien empire how to be heroes. It was, she reflected, exactly the kind of illogical outcome that made humans the most dangerous species in the galaxy. The war was over, but the legend of the 3.2-kilometer shot would live forever among the stars.